Right, well, Zwift is great for indoor training, as I'm sure many of you are already aware.
But what if we told you that it could be better?
Yeah, because today we're going to let you in on a few tips, tricks, and hacks.
As you can see behind us, we've got a full indoor bike trainer set up, and we have got a treadmill over there too because, well, we are triathletes after all.
Yeah, so today we're actually going to let you in on some tips, some hacks for cycling on Zwift, running on Zwift, and if you're fortunate enough to have a setup like this, then brick sessions on Zwift too.
Right then, Mark, so which one first?
Well, I'm feeling quite generous today. You can go first. Okay, so let's assume you're on Zwift already, you figured out how to get riding on there, you're enjoying the community, perhaps you're even fortunate enough to have been receiving the odd ride on from other fellow Zwift users. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here because it took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out how to send a ride on back to those other Zwift users. So what I'm saying is, you're not alone. Don't feel ashamed if you are in the same boat. I've been there too. So with that in mind, I thought we could start on a couple of the basics to help you enjoy Zwift more. So starting with that ride on, to give someone a ride on in game or a thumbs up, you have a couple of options. Click on a name on the right hand panel, an orange thumb will pop up, select that, and that will give that person a ride on. Or you can go into your companion app on your mobile, hit the white circle around your navigation pointer on the map, and it will give ride-ons to Zwifters within that circle nearby. All right, so that's the fun bit out of the way, making sure that you're making some friends on Zwift. But now let's go on to a few tips that are actually going to help your training. So a fairly small but actually quite crucial thing is considering the location of your TV and the fan, because if you have that TV too high, you're going to be craning your neck to see it. And this is particularly important if you're going to be using aero bars, as Fraser's doing right now. You're actually going to want to have that TV really low so it's a nice natural view sight for you. And then with the fan, you're going to want to have that pointing straight at your face so that you've got a nice cool airflow over your body. And a pro tip here is go for 2 fans, super helpful. Who'd have thought? And that is really helpful when you're going to be working hard on Zwift, as Fraser is about to demonstrate for us now.
What, I am?
Yeah, mate, just leave the controls with me. So obviously you can just roll around on Zwift and freestyle, as Fraser's doing right now, or you can get stuck into some specific workouts. Now you've got a couple of options here on how you get involved in those. When you load up Zwift, you can hit a workout and start off on that. Or you can do, as I often do, and Fraser's doing now, is start rolling around on Zwift, freestyling, and then just hit E on your keyboard and select a workout from there. Now I've actually got a few tricks here that I think you'll like. So if you're selecting a workout, you can actually adjust your FTP over here on the right hand side using this little slider, and that will actually change your numbers for that entire session. Or alternatively, you can select a session and you'll see these little square icons appear here. Now if we click on that, that then actually loads up a slightly more advanced editor where we can modify individual sections of that session. Now personally, I'm actually a really big fan of linking my Training Peaks account with my Zwift account. And what happens then is that any workout that's planned in Training Peaks for that day will automatically appear within Zwift for that given day. You can select that and follow that within Zwift. So really handy. If that's of interest to you, just go over to the Zwift webpage on your web browser, go to the connections section, and then link your Training Peaks account. But Fraser, I guess we should probably crack on and select a workout for you. I'm thinking GCN's Cy Richardson Sweet Spot with bursts. Well, I'm not actually finished there because we can still change things up in the workout. How are you feeling, Fraser?
Get a bit sweaty.
Okay, good. Sounds like you're all right. Because we can actually hit anywhere on the screen with the cursor or the up arrow on our keyboard. And that's going to display a number of options along the bottom, including an up and down icon. Sure you're still feeling okay, Fraser?
Yeah, I'm there, I'm okay.
Okay, because if you are feeling particularly good that day and perhaps want to work a little bit harder, we can select that up arrow and bump the intensity up.
It's easy there, Mark, easy.
Want to go down?
Yeah.
Okay. Just as easy. We'll do that again, but we hit the down arrow. Now you may have noticed that each time I put the power up or the power down, it was instantly changing how hard Fraser was having to work. And that is because he is using a smart trainer in erg mode, which tends to be how a lot of the workouts are used in Zwift. Now, what happens here is whatever cadence you're riding at, you have to ride at the power stated to turn the pedals. But we can, of course, turn that erg mode off by using that options before. Got erg just down here.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Mark, it's not really what I thought I'd signed myself up for today.
Well, I'll help you out here, because if I just hit tab on the keyboard, that scoots you on to the next rep,
it does.
Which is super handy. I use this a lot, actually, either if I'm really tired and I'm struggling, or perhaps I'm just trying to cram a workout in just before work.
But what about the bikes and equipment in game, Mark? Is any of it any quicker than the others?
Good question, actually. And the simple answer is yes, although not an easy one to answer, because all the equipment comes with its own unique characteristics in terms of aerodynamics and weight. I guess a little bit like out in the real world. So to answer your question, yes, the quickest bike on flat and rolling terrain for a road bike is the Specialized Avenge S-Works. It's slightly faster in terms of its aerodynamics over other frames, but it does come with a slight caveat. It will require 798,800 drops for you to purchase, and you must be level 33 and above.
I'm only at level 22, Mark. And what about this fancy Tron bike that I've heard lots about?
Very good question, because this Tron bike you're talking about actually isn't the fastest bike in game. In fact, it's back down in 5th. Providing the bikes above that have the fastest wheel sets in the game, which is the Zip 858 front and the Zip Super 9 disc rear wheel. However, this does come with a slight caveat. Those wheels are actually locked at level 45.
Of course they are.
Which kind of makes the Tron bike the fastest, even with its standard wheels.
So, how do I get it?
Well, also not that easy, I'm afraid, because to do it, you need to sign yourself up to Climb Mount Everest Challenge within Zwift. So, you climb the 8,850 meters of Everest.
Okay.
And then you keep going and climb an additional 41,150 meters to finally unlock that coveted Concept Z1, aka the Tron bike. But if you're after TT bikes, as I'm sure many of you are, well, the Cervelo P5X and the Felt IA come out as the fastest of the bunch with almost identical speeds, requiring level 45 and 37 respectively.
But remember, Mark, how far down the levels I am. That's like double what I'm already. That's going to take me ages.
Well, we can be a little cunning here, because if you're not that fussed about climbs, then target the flatter and faster routes to really rack that mileage up, because that is the best way to level up. And I do have a little hack for that, which we'll go into a little bit later on. Or you can, of course, go after that elevation and target that concept bike.
Right, talking about hard work, I reckon it's time we get you doing some stuff now, Mark. Right, so now it's my turn to crank up the pace on my... Well, anyway, what I am going to discuss here is some of the connection options for getting going with Zwift on your treadmill, because we have been made aware of some fairly fancy and new methods for doing so. Now, the first method, and probably the simplest one, is this option, which is the Zwift Footpod, and it is a good and cheap way of being able to track your speed, and you can take it wherever you're going, so that's a good start. Now, by far and away the best option is what Mark is doing right now, and that is a Bluetooth treadmill.
Now then, if you are using a footpod, what we've learned from experience is that you want to pay more attention to the fast pace when it comes to calibrating in the calibration dialogue. So what I mean by that is, in your workout, think of the top end speed that you plan on hitting and basically calibrate to that. And what you should see then when you're doing a workout is that Zwift and the treadmill are bang for pace and speed on the flat.
Yeah, now what we didn't touch on when we were talking about the cycling before, but is just the same for running, is the fact that you can sign yourself up for not just group workouts, but some races as well.
Yeah, I see what's coming here.
Yeah, now don't worry, Mark, I'm going to go easy on you today because we're going to skip the races altogether, but what I'm going to do is make you an Olympian.
No way, how?
Well, what we can do is unlock the Olympian achievement, and all you need to be able to do that is run a 5-minute mile or less.
Okay, that's quite hard, mate.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, once we're done with that, we're going to get the Centurion, which is 100 miles of running. We're then going to get the Street Cred, which is 500 miles. And after all of that, the Pursuit of Happiness, which is 1,000 miles.
Yeah, mate, I'm out of here. I'm out of it.
Yeah, now if you do want to geek out and get fancy with stuff, then what you can actually do is load up a really long-running hack, which is to do with the worlds. When you load up Zwift, it will give you Watopia as a default setting every day, plus one other world which will change day to day depending on the Zwift calendar. However, if you do want to change this default setting of Watopia, then you can do that to whatever you like, or perhaps just the one that you like the most, and even better, the one where you can rack up the most miles. So to do this, go to Documents on your computer, then the Zwift directory, then open the pref.xml document and add a little bit of code similar to that on screen right now, just below the opening Zwift tag near the top of the file.
And of course, we can't forget the fact that we have a treadmill and a bike side by side here, which is pretty luxurious, but it's shouting a brick session to me, going from bike to run, or vice versa, run to bike.
Yeah, so simply ride your bike as you usually would on Zwift, but then hit end and save that at the end of your ride.
Very important.
And then go to the pairing screen and select running so that you can then start afresh and get going with a run.
Yeah, and we can make it even more easy for yourself by having your run shoes out ready, maybe a change of clothes, so you have a really slick changeover.
Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed our video today about Zwift hacks. So please get that thumb up like button and hit that. Find the globe on screen to make sure you don't miss out any other videos that we do here on GTN. And to see another Zwift video about how to train on Zwift, well, you can find that here.
Yeah, if you'd like to see our GTN versus Team Charles Barkley challenge, you can see that by clicking just down here. And I think I got off pretty lightly today.
Yeah, me too.